All right, everybody, what's going on? How y'all doing? Welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk, the show we cover the SWAC inside and out. Of course, I'm your tour guide around the SWAC Seawells, coming at you, and we are going to recap Week 9, man. Another week in the books. Had a lot of interesting action take place. Some not really surprising winners, but we had some winners that maybe were not as expected, and then some expected winners. Still got a lot of football left in this final month coming up. Next week is the start of the final week of the season, and so we are gonna, really make heads, tails on who's gonna represent each division in the SWAC championship game in the upcoming weeks. We have our Week 10 pick'em is up. I'll link it in the description of this show, and there's also a pinned tweet on my Twitter account, which is SWAC Talk 76. Also, it's posted on my Instagram and Facebook, both are SWAC Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done so already, it's definitely appreciated. Thanks everybody who tuned in last night when we did our post-game live show. Always a lot of fun, even after a loss. It's still a lot of fun to get on there and just have some fun and kind of get some steam off you. But if you hadn't seen it live, you can check it out. Obviously, it's on the profile. Also, don't forget to like the video, comment, and share. And hit that notification bell so you can be alerted when them kind of videos drop. Like I said, we don't do it every Saturday, so it's not a scheduled thing. But sometimes we just hit each other up and be like, "Hey, man, we're going live tonight." So if you hit that notification bell and you subscribe, then you can find out when that drops. So let's go ahead and get into the action, man. We got 6 games to cover. 5 conference games, 1 non-conference game, and we're gonna run through these in the order that I did my previews. So our first game is our non-conference game. It was homecoming at Prairie View, and the Panthers pick up a 34-27 victory over Texas A&M Commerce as the Panthers win their second game against a Southland opponent, going 2-1 in their non-conference FCS schedule. 2-2 in the non-conference overall, but 2 non-conference FCS wins, which are more than most of our teams have. So the Panthers may not be having a great SWAC season, but they have had some success outside of the conference. Maybe they can translate that in the stretch run and finish with a positive record. We'll see. But they did pick up a big win here, and they jumped on Texas A&M Commerce early. Up 21-3 in the first quarter, before they kind of settled down and Commerce put some points on the board in the second half. But Prairie View got on the board first with two Jaden Johnson touchdowns in the first 5 minutes of the game, basically. A 14-yard pass to Shamar Savage, and then a 59-yard pass to James Burns. And that after those 2 scores, the Panthers was up 14-0. Luke Jackson would get a 35-yard field goal for Commerce to make score 14-3 before James Burns got a 76-yard run. Kind of coming out party for him. He's been a guy who, had some opportunities, couldn't really get the plays made. And he was able to make some big plays in this game. Definitely is a guy who may be SWAC player of the week offensively. When you look at his production in this game, like I said, he had a 76-yard run, which made it score 21-3, and that would be our halftime score. That was a scoreless second quarter. Third quarter, Luke Jackson would get a 23-yard field goal for Commerce to make it score 21-6. Guerrero Garcia Rodriguez would get a 49-yard field goal for Prairie View to make it score 24-6. James Burns would catch another touchdown pass from Jaden Johnson, this time from 80 yards out, made the score 31-6. Sean Sally would get a 51-yard pass from Will Madonna to give the Lions their first touchdown of the game, 31-13. And then Tyson Schilling would get a 21-yard pass from Madonna to bring the Lions to within 11 at 31-20. Guerrero Garcia will get a 37-yard field goal with 2:30 left in the game to put the Panthers up 34-20 before Madonna will get a 1-yard run with 37 seconds left to bring the Lions to within 7 at 34-27. And basically, after that, Prairie View ran the clock out. They tried an onside kick, one play basically, and one knee later, Panthers get the dub. Big, like I said, big win for Prairie View. James Burns, huge game for him. Kind of a, like I said, kind of a coming out party. We'll see if he can continue that production. But I think he's a strong candidate for Offensive Player of the Week. When you look at what he did in this game, 22 first downs for Commerce, 13 for Prairie View, 98 yards rushing for the Lions, 28 carries, 3.5 yards per carry, 1 touchdown, 159 yards for the Panthers, one of their better running games of the season, 31 carries, 5.1 yards per carry, 1 touchdown, 345 through the air for Texas A&M Commerce, 30 of 56, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 236 through the air for the Panthers, 12 of 20, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 443 yards for the Lions, 84 plays, 5.3 yards per play, 2 fumbles, lost 1. They had 4 penalties for 35 yards. Prairie View, 395. Total offense, 51 plays, 7.7 yards per play, 1 fumble. They didn't lose it. And they had 6 penalties for 45 yards, 34.5 yard average per punt for the Lions, 44.4 for the Panthers. Commerce was 10 of 21 on third downs, 2 of 5 on fourth downs, 3 of 4 in the red zone. They had 2 sacks. Prairie View was 2 of 11 on third down, 1 of 1 on fourth down, and 1 of 2 in the red zone with 1 sack. Madonna, 17 of 30 for Commerce, 178 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Ryan Peace, 13 of 26, 167 yards, no touchdown, 1 interception, and 1 sack. Jaden Johnson, 12 of 20 for Prairie View, 236 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 2 sacks. BK Jackson led the Lions with 7 carries for 70 yards. James Burns had the 1 carry for 76 yards for Prairie View. Lamaje McDowell had 15 carries for 72 yards as well. Sally, 4 catches, 116 yards for the Lions and 1 touchdown. Schilling, 4 for 49 and a touchdown. Jared Wilson, 4 for 43. Burns, 2 for 139 and 2 touchdowns for the Panthers. So you're looking at a guy that had over 200 yards of all-purpose offense. All three of his touches were touchdowns. That you can't get any more efficient than that. 3 offensive touches, 3 touchdowns, all big plays. You can't get any more impactful than that. Savage, 3 for 54 and 1 touchdown. Brandon Tucker led the Lions with 12 tackles. He also had 1.5 tackles for loss to lead the defense. Their sacks went to Williams and Sims. Interception went to Max Epps. Prairie View was led by Terrell Coleman with 8 tackles. Sumbo had 1.5 tackles for loss, and a sack went to Gifford. Interceptions were by Davis and Turner. So, like I said, just a solid non-conference win for Prairie View. It was a much-needed win in any aspect. But to pick up another out-of-conference win, I think is always a great thing. You can't, when you're struggling to get wins anywhere, you need to get these wins against these kind of teams. And I thought this was a solid effort, especially by James Burns. He had a huge game. Jaden Johnson, 3 explosive touchdown passes. So, maybe they can translate this into their upcoming games. I know they go to Prairie View they go to Valley on Saturday. So we'll see if they can continue that momentum. And speaking of the Delta Devils, they played a solid game against Pine Bluff, ultimately coming up short. But I thought this was a very competitive game through 3 quarters before Pine Bluff was able to score 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns and basically get the win. This was a back-and-forth affair for a long stretch. There was a weather delay in the middle of it, but like in the early portions of the second quarter. So there was a weather delay that slowed this game down, but it was a neck-and-neck type of game. Pine Bluff scored first when Makai Higgins had a 1-yard run. Valley would get on the board with a 1-yard Jacoby Thomas run to tie the game up at 7. After the weather delay, DJ Stevenson came in at quarterback for Pine Bluff, and he would get a 1-yard touchdown run on the ensuing drive. after the delay. That made the score 14-7 for Pine Bluff. Then Tajarian Williams would answer that with a 4-yard touchdown run with 1:09 left in the second quarter. Halftime score would be 14-all. Third quarter, the Fabian Fant would get an 8-yard run for Valley to put the Delta Devils up 21-14. And then Makai Higgins would get a 5-yard run with 6:13 left in the third to tie the game up at 21. And then Higgins would throw 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, one with 11:39 left in the fourth to Giovanni Gibson for 33 yards, 28-21. And then Damon Dawkins would get a 30-yard pass from Higgins, extra point good, 35-21. That score came with 5:32 left in the game, and that would be our final score. Valley, 21 first downs. Pine Bluff, 21 first downs. Valley, 184 yards on the ground. Really good game on the ground for them. Easily their best rushing effort of the season. 43 carries, 4.3 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. Pine Bluff, 201 on the ground. 37 carries, 5.4 yards per carry, and they had 3 touchdowns. 159 yards passing for Valley, 15-21. No touchdowns, no interceptions. Pine Bluff, 221 yards through the air, 15-19. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Both teams very efficient in this game. 343 yards of offense for Valley, 64 plays, 5.4 yards per play. They had 2 fumbles and lost 1. They had 6 penalties for 58 yards. Pine Bluff, 422 total offense, 56 plays, 7.5 yards per play. They fumbled once but didn't lose it. 8 penalties for 59 yards. So 14 penalties and 1 turnover between 2 teams that are really not having good seasons. That's a pretty clean game. You know, like I said, I thought Pine Bluff would put a few more points on the board, but they got the win that they needed at home, another conference win, so that's big for them. Only 4 punts in this game. So this was a surprisingly clean game. 45-yard average for Valley on 1 punt, 33.3 average on 3 punts for Pine Bluff. Valley 6 of 11 on third down, 1 of 3 on fourth down, 3 of 5 in the red zone. They had 2 sacks. Pine Bluff 9 of 12 on third down. They didn't go for it on fourth down at all. 3 or 4 in the red zone, and they had no sacks. Individually, Williams 15 of 21 for Valley, 159 yards, no touchdown, no interceptions, no sacks. Higgins 13 of 16 for Pine Bluff, 204 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 2 sacks. Stevenson 2 of 3 for 17 yards, no touchdowns, interceptions, or sacks. Williams led Valley with 19 carries for 124 yards and a touchdown. Higgins led Pine Bluff with 11 carries for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. B.J. Curry had 18 carries for 74 yards to pace the Golden Lions. Nathan Rembert, 8 catches, 69 yards for Valley. Jackson Davis, 5 for 64. Gibson, 7 for 102 and a touchdown for Pine Bluff to lead the Golden Lions. Eric Campbell, 6 tackles for Valley to lead them. Jordan Montgomery and Brandon Williams each had 1.5 tackles for loss. Dante Reed had a sack. And Pine Bluff was led by Quentin Sterling with 14 tackles. Khalil Arnold had 1.5 tackles for loss. And interception was none. So, like I said, this was this was honestly a pretty entertaining game. I was able to watch some of it on both sides of the weather delay, and it was a pretty, entertaining game. You know, especially when you kind of don't know what to expect from 2 teams like this. And I thought Pine Bluff would really be able to give Valley the business, but Valley was, like I said, they was in this game all the way to the fourth quarter. So that's that's something that they can take from this game. They don't have many opportunities left to get wins though. They play Prairie View at home on Saturday. Pine Bluff goes to Jackson to take on the Tigers on Saturday. So both games are going to be challenging for both teams, but Pine Bluff was able to get that win and get a little revenge from the ambushing that Valley gave them last year. So Pine Bluff was able to pick up a nice win there. That takes us to our next game, which is Texas Southern taking on Grambling. The Tigers of Texas Southern will get a 24-17 victory in a game that they basically led all the way through. And this was, this was a game. One of the things to look at is the health of Miles Crowley. I know he left this game with an injury. I don't know any report on that yet, but hopefully, he's able to return. Been an off season for him, and you don't want to see him go down with an injury. You don't want to see anybody go down with an injury, but I think that did kind of shape this game a little bit for Grambling. But Texas Southern had a really good game here. Jace Wilson would get the Tigers on the board first with 14:22 left in the second quarter with a 6-yard touchdown run. Reed Harradine would get the Tigers with Grambling on the board with a 38-yard field goal with 4:02 left in the second quarter. That made the score 7-3. Donnell McKinney would catch a 49-yard pass from Jordan Davis to put the Tigers of TSU up 14-3 going into the half. Coming out of the half, Hargrove will get a 31-yard run for Grambling to make the score 14-10. And then Gustavo Romero will get a field goal from 46 yards out with 4:41 left in the third to put TSU up 17-10. Delj Bailey will get a 6-yard run for Grambling to make the score 17-all. That was with 9:07 left in the game. And then with 4:24 left in the game, Quintrell Quinn will get a 2-yard run for the Tigers of TSU to go up 24-7. Quick. I would like to take a quick look at what happens after those late scores. Grambling would get the ball at their 24-yard line. They would run the ball on first down for 2 yards. They would complete a pass to Robinson for 1 yard, setting up a 3rd and 7 at their own 27. They were incomplete, and then they would punt. They would punt from their own 27-yard line on 4th and 7. TSU would get the ball back with 4:19 and run the clock out. Really nice drive to basically end the game here. They would basically just run this thing on out. So big win for TSU here. A much needed win. They remain in the hunt for the division championship. They only have 2 losses right now, so they are still in the mix. Grambling drops to their 3rd conference game, and now it's a little dicey for them. They're going to need some help, but we'll see how things shape up toward the end. Grambling 17 first downs, Texas Southern 20, 154 yards rushing for Grambling, 442 carries, 3.7 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, 189 yards rushing for Texas Southern, 38 carries, 5 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, 102 through the air for Grambling, 10 of 15, no touchdowns, no interceptions. 177 through the air for Texas Southern, 12 of 19. They had 1 touchdown and 1 interception. 256 total offense for Grambling. 57 plays, 4.5 yards per play. They fumbled twice but didn't lose either. They had 7 penalties for 104 yards, 366 yards for Texas Southern. 57 plays, 6.4 yards per play. They had 1 fumble and didn't lose it. And they had 5 penalties for 41 yards. Grambling punted for a 42.3-yard average on 6 punts. Texas Southern 34.6 on 5 punts. Grambling 3 of 11 on 3rd down. Didn't attempt a 4th down. They were 1 of 1 in the red zone, and they had 1 sack. Texas Southern was 4 of 10 on 3rd down. Didn't attempt a 4th down. 2 of 3 in the red zone, and they had 3 sacks. Grambling was led in passing by Bailey. He was 7 of 12 for 70 yards on the night. Miles Crowley was 2 for 2 for 28 yards and a sack before he went out. And Ashton Fryer was 1 of 1 for 4 yards. He was sacked twice. Wilson was 11 of 18 for Texas Southern, 128 yards, no touchdown, 1 interception, 1 sack. Davis 1 for 1 for 49 yards and a touchdown. Hargrove led Grambling with 13 carries for 73 yards. Bradford 12 for 49. Hargrove did have a touchdown. Wilson led TSU with 12 carries for 78 yards and a touchdown. Quinn 11 for 69 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Johnson led Grambling with 2 catches for 29 yards. Jaron Johnson led TSU with 5 catches for 60 yards. Leary 2 for 49. McKinney 1 for 49 and a touchdown. Calvin Henderson led Grambling with 7 tackles on the night. Hardy had 1 tackle for loss. Horton also had 1 tackle for loss. Hardy had a sack. Interception went to Joel Williams. Texas Southern was led by Javius Williams with 9 tackles. He also had 3 tackles for loss to lead the defense, and 2 sacks were by Dharma Thompson. So a big win for Texas Southern. Grambling, tough loss here. We'll see, like I said, we'll see what the health of Miles Crawley is. I think that's a huge blow to lose your starting quarterback, especially in a situation where the team is still trying to find themselves. Grambling doesn't have a lot of room for error anymore, so we'll see how things shape up for them. But this is still a dangerous team. They do play at Bethune-Cookman on Saturday. Texas Southern goes to FAMU on Saturday, so opportunity for one team to maybe take a little step and another team maybe not. So we'll see moving forward. But that was a big win for the Tigers of Texas Southern. That takes us to our 4th game on the day, which is Jackson State and Bethune-Cookman. The Wildcats of Bethune-Cookman came out early with some fire in their eyes and gave JSU a nice run in the first half, but Jackson State really slammed the door on them with a long drive in the early portions of the second half, and Bethune could never recover. JSU did what a good team does. You take a punch and you deliver your knockout blow at some point. You don't always have to do it. You don't always have to do it early, but you do it, before it's over. And that's what they did here. They took that hit, and then they knocked them out in the second half. But Bethune got on the board first when Malik Huggins caught an 11-yard pass from Luke Sprague with 11:16 left in the first quarter to go up 7-0. Irv Mulligan get a 39-yard touchdown run for Jackson State to tie the game up at 7 after the extra point. They came with 8:27 left in the first. 2:30 left in the first quarter. Lorenzo Jenkins would catch a 16-yard pass from Luke Sprague. Extra point good, 14-7. Basil would get a 24-yard field goal for Jackson State with 8:47 left in the second quarter to make it score 14-10. And then Hector would get a 25-yard field goal for Bethune-Cookman with 2:31 left in the first half to put the Wildcats up 17-10. Jonas Fortillion would get a 14-yard touchdown pass from Jacobian Morgan to make it score 17-17. That came with 13 seconds left in the first half. So halftime score 17-17. Jackson State will come out to start the second half with a 16-play, 69-yard drive that took 7:15 off the clock. Irv Mulligan would cap that drive with a 1-yard run. That score came with 7:42 left in the third. With 4:20 left in the third, Isaiah Spencer would catch a 23-yard pass from Cameron McCoy. That would cap a 3-play, 85-yard drive. That put the Tigers up 31-17. And then 2 Basil field goals in the fourth quarter would basically close the door on Bethune-Cookman. One with 13:37 left in the fourth from 39 yards out, and then one with 7:08 left in the game from 28 yards out. Both capping 59-yard drives. 9-play drive on the first one and a 10-play drive on the second one. So, 4 long drives for JSU. 3 of them covered more than 9 plays. So they really dominated this second half, time of possession. They really shut Bethune down in the second half. If you kind of look at what Bethune-Cookman was able to do in the second half, their first drive, they went through 3 plays and they lost 3 yards and punted. The second drive, they had 3 plays, lost 3 yards and punted. The third drive, they went 3 plays, 8 yards before they punted. The fourth drive, they went 3 plays, 3 yards and punted. So they had 4 3-and-outs, 4 consecutive 3-and-outs in their first 4 second half drives. That final drive, which they had 5 second half drives, the fifth one went 7 plays, and they went 27 yards before the game ended. So they finished the second half with 32 yards of offense. So JSU really controlled the game. They really controlled the clock in the second half, and that was the difference in this game. Jackson State finished with 22 first downs, Bethune-Cookman 14. 349 on the ground for Jackson State. Like I said, they really grounded and pounded Bethune-Cookman in this game. 41 carries, 8.5 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, 112 on the ground for Bethune, 34 carries, 3.3 yards per carry, and no touchdowns. 164 yards passing for Jackson State, 16 of 25, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Bethune, 190 yards, 15 of 23, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Jackson State, 513 yards of offense, 66 plays, 7.8 yards per play, no fumbles, 6 penalties for 60 yards, 302 yards of offense for Bethune-Cookman, 57 plays, 5.3 yards per play. They didn't fumble either. So no turnovers in this game. 5 penalties for 40 yards. So basically 11 penalties for 100 yards in this game. No fumbles, no interceptions. So pretty clean game, honestly. Jackson State 2 punts for a 57.5-yard average. Bethune-Cookman 5 punts for a 43.4-yard average. Jackson State with 8 of 15 on third down, 2 of 2 on fourth down. They had 4 in the red zone, and they had 2 sacks. Bethune 5 of 13 on third down, 2 of 2 on fourth down. They were 3 for 3 in the red zone, and they had no sacks. Individually, Morgan 14 of 18 for Jackson State, 138 yards, 1 touchdown, no interception, no sacks. McCoy 2 of 7 for 26 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, no sacks. Luke Sprague 15 of 23 for Bethune-Cookman, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 2 sacks. Mulligan led Jackson State with 18 carries for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. Terrell 8 carries, 86 yards for JSU. Dennis Palmer had 20 carries for Bethune-Cookman for 73 yards. Spencer 4 catches, 61 yards and a touchdown for Jackson State. For Tillian 4 for 47 and a touchdown. Henderson 6 for 38. Huggins led Bethune with 4 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown. Jenkins 3 for 43 and a touchdown. Sayers Guthrie led Jackson State with 6 tackles, along with Ashton Taylor, also with 6 tackles. Nobles 1 tackle for loss to lead the defense. He also had 1 sack to lead the defense. Bethune-Cookman was led by Antoine Watts with 8 tackles. Kevin Washington Jr. had 1.5 tackles for loss to lead the defense. No sacks, no interceptions, no fumbles. So like this was a really solid first half by a team that was overmatched, but Jackson State exerted their will in the second half and got the win. And that takes us to our fourth game, or the fifth game of the day, which is FAMU and Southern. The Rattlers, they basically blew open a tight game in the second half. This game was a 7-3 game at the half. First half, no offensive touchdowns. Only scoring in the first half was a field goal from Southern from 50 yards out, which came at 11:27 left in the first. Josh Griffin kicked a 50-yard field goal for Southern. Jamari Gassett will get a 43-yard punt return for FAMU with 6:17 left in the first quarter, and that was a 7-3 game at the half. Gassett would get a 53-yard pass from Richardson to open up the second half with 13:52 left in the third. That put the Rattlers up 14-3. Griffin will get a 46-yard field goal for Southern with 1:08 left in the third. Kelvin Dean will catch a 16-yard pass from Richardson with 9:14 left in the fourth quarter to go up 21-6. And then with 1:55 left in the game, Cameron Gillis will kick a 34-yard field goal for FAMU. 11 play, 58 drive. That took 5:58 off the clock. That totally slammed the door in this game, 24-6. FAMU 21 first down, Southern 12. 122 yards on the ground for Southern, 36 carries, 3.4 yards per carry, no touchdown. So a good game for FAMU rushing defense, especially in the second half. I thought in the first half, Southern did have some opportunities to run the ball, and they were pretty successful in the first half running the ball. Had about 90 yards on the ground, looking like they were on their way to a 150, 160-yard game on the ground. Second half just couldn't really get anything going offensively. Southern shot themselves in the foot a couple of times as well. with a bad interception on a drive that they were moving the ball on the ground. FAMU kind of took them a while to get going. They had 126 yards on the ground, which is one of their better efforts. Still not a great running game, but it was better than normal. 28 carries on the night, 4.5 yards per carry, no touchdown. Still haven't got a rushing touchdown yet this season. But they continue to win. Southern finished with 83 yards passing. That was definitely Achilles' heel tonight. 11 of 27, no touchdowns, 1 interception. FAMU 278 through the air, 26 of 34, 2 touchdowns with 1 interception. 205 yards of offense for Southern, 63 plays, 3.3 yards per play. No fumbles. So Southern only had the 1 turnover on the night. They had 4 penalties for 35 yards, which was the best game they've ever had all season in terms of penalties. FAMU 404 yards of offense, 62 plays, 6.5 yards per play, 1 fumble. They lost it. They had 7 penalties for 80 yards. Southern punted for a 38-yard average on 7 punts. FAMU 42 on 4. Southern was 2 of 16 on 3rd down, 2 for 2 on 4th down. No trips in the red zone. They had 2 sacks. FAMU 7 of 13 on 3rd down, 0 for 1 on 4th down. They were 2 of 3 in the red zone, and they had 2 sacks. Like I said, when you look at this game, this was a dark cloud defense game. I know my SWAC Smoke co-host Jerome had been saying they more like a partly cloudy defense this season, but this game they were really about as close as they had been to being that dark cloud defense. Never gave Southern anything to really get comfortable with. Even on the scoring drives, they got 2 long field goals. So Southern never really got anything going offensively. If you look at all the drives Southern had in this game, the first drive was 8 plays, 27 yards, 3 for 2 on the second drive, 3 for 9 on the third drive, 3 for 7 on the fourth drive. So 3 straight 3-and-outs. And then 7 of 24 on their fifth drive. They did have an 8-play drive that covered 34 yards that ended in an interception. That got them down to the FAMU 41. Then they drove to the FAMU 48, where they missed a field goal. So that was an 8-play, 37-yard drive, and that closed out their first half drives. Second half, they had a 3-play drive, went 2 yards. Second drive with 3-play, 8 yards. They had an 8-play, 18-yard drive that led to their field goal. Then they went backwards 3 yards on their third drive. On the next to last drive. Then their final drive, they went 9 plays and 35 yards. So the drive that basically ended at the end of the game was their longest drive in terms of yardage and plays. And that drive came up empty, and they were already down 24-6 at that point. So there was nothing Southern did in this game offensively. FAMU defense really controlled this game. The offense was kind of up and down. They showed flashes. The FAMU offense showed some flashes, but they would make a mistake here and there that kept them from just really blowing this game open. This game could have been a lot worse than 24-6, and when you look at it, it probably should have been. But I thought Southern defense played well in spurts, just enough to kind of keep this game from getting out of hand until late. But it just didn't go. It just didn't go anywhere for Southern, and this is a big missed opportunity. Had an opportunity to kind of make some space between you and the rest of the division, and you just didn't. You didn't get it done. I don't even think it's a case of Southern not showing up. I just think FAMU defense just played a great game, and they made things really hard for Southern. And Southern had this was the bad quarterback night. And if you're a team like Southern that needs to run the ball and not and be basically efficient in the passing game, when you don't do that, it really hinders everything. Because like I said, the running game was working for a little while, but the fact that they just couldn't get anything going when they went to the air just killed them. Noah Biden, 8 of 18 for 45 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, no sacks. Xavier Tisek came in, and he was 3 of 9 for 38 yards. He was sacked twice. Daniel Richardson with 25 of 32 for 274 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 2 sacks. Junior Maritovic was 1 for 2 for 4 yards. No touchdown, no interception, no sacks. Kobe Dillon led Southern with 15 carries for 60 yards. Thad Franklin led FAMU with 7 carries for 40 yards. Bull Somerset 8 for 39, and Dean 6 for 38. Darren Morris led Southern with 4 catches for 27 yards. Jamari Gassett 5 for 118 and a touchdown. Ace Cobb had 2 catches for 45 yards. Horatio Johnson led Southern with 8 tackles along with Vince Page. He also had 8 tackles. Kelby Givens 2 tackles for loss to lead the defense. He also had 1 sack to lead the defense along with Willie Miles. Interception was by Jamarius Brown. He returned that for 53 yards. FAMU was led by James Ash and Jamil Sanders. Each had 9 tackles. Tackle for loss. Ash and Smith each had 1 apiece. Sack. Ash had 1 sack, and then Gibson Battles and Dilworth tied for 1.5. Tied with a half a sack apiece. Interception was by Huggins. He also returned his 59 yards. So, like I said, this was just a game that FAMU defense, they showed up. And the offense did enough to get them to win. Southern, back to the drawing board for them. They go to Alabama A&M on Saturday with an opportunity to continue to be in front in the division. You can't overlook that. And then FAMU, they get Texas Southern at home for homecoming, which they have an opportunity to kind of keep themselves in the race. It's going to be tough. I think they really probably going to need a 3-way tie situation to kind of come out on top. But they still are in the mix. You know, it's not over for them. No matter how much everybody wants it to be, it's not officially over for them yet. So they still have something to fight for. And, you know, they still have homecoming ahead of them this week. So they picked up a big win. Southern took a big loss, but both teams still are in the mix in their divisions. So not a lot changed because of this result. And our final game of the day is the Magic City Classic. Alabama State would defeat Alabama A&M by a score of 27-19. And this actually was a game that the Hornets led at one point 27-3 before basically a spirited comeback again from Alabama A&M. Kind of like that Jackson State game where they fell behind by a big margin and came back and cut it down and lost by a touchdown. This game, they were down 24 points and came back and cut it to at 8-point margin, and ultimately ended up losing. But Alabama State would get on the board first when Asa Gregg would catch a 31-yard pass from Kareem Keys, 7-0. Brandon Gilliam would get a 35-yard field goal for the Hornets with 2:47 left in the first quarter to make the score 10-7. Derek Harden would get a 6-yard pass from Key to make the score 17-0. That came with 2:50 left in the first half. Victor Barbosa would get a field goal right at the half to put the Bulldogs on the board. That field goal came from 27 yards out. The score was 17-3 at half. With 3:16 left in the third, Gilliam would get a 33-yard field goal for the Hornets to make the score 20-3. And then Tashawn Sims would get an 86-yard pick six for the Hornets to make the score 27-3. That came with 1:01 left in the third. And then A&M would score 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns, one with 9:52 left in the game. Keenan Hambrick would catch a 65-yard pass from Langford to make the score 27-11 after the extra point. And then Langford would throw a 31-yard pass to Hambrick with 5:03 left in the game, and that made the score 27-19 after the 2-point conversion. After that score, Bama State would get the ball, and they would basically go 3-and-out and punt. And A&M would get the ball at the Bama State 47 with 2:49 left in the game. Xavier Langford would throw an interception to Amon Scarborough at the Bama State 21, and then Bama State would run the clock out after that. So they had a chance to maybe tie the game up, but they turned the ball over, and Bama State was able to get the win. 16 first downs for Bama State, 14 for A&M, 204 yards on the ground for Bama State, 40 carries, 5.1 yard per carry, no touchdowns, 61 yards on the ground for Alabama A&M, 27 carries, 2.3 yard per carry, and no touchdowns. Bama State 131 yards through the air, 14 of 20, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. 309 through the air for A&M, 18 of 38, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Turnovers continue to plague Alabama A&M. They had 4 total turnovers in this game. 335 yards of offense for Bama State, 60 plays, 5.6 yards per play. They fumbled once but didn't lose it. They had 10 penalties for 85 yards. Alabama A&M, 370 yards of offense, 65 plays, 5.7 yards per play. They had 2 fumbles and lost 1. They had 8 penalties for 73 yards, 31.3 yard average for Bama State on 7 punts, 47.8 yard per punt average on 4 punts for the Bulldogs. Bama State, 4 of 13 on third downs, didn't attempt a fourth down. They were 3 of 4 in the red zone. They had no sacks. Bama A&M, 3 of 13 on third down, 0 for 4 on fourth down, 1 for 1 in the red zone, and they had 1 sack. Kareem Key finished the night at 14 of 20 for 131 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interception, 1 sack. Langford, 13 of 26 for 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Cornelius Brown, 5 of 11 for 102 yards, no touchdown, 1 interception. Daquan Kinsey led Bama State with 18 carries for 156 yards, big game for him. Holdsclaw, 10 for 52. Langford led the Bulldogs with 9 carries for 27 yards on the night. Greg had 4 catches for 75 yards and a touchdown for the Hornets. Harden, 2 for 26 and a touchdown. Hambrick led the Bulldogs with 5 catches for 139 yards and 2 touchdowns. Welch, 4 for 78. Scarborough led the Hornets with 8 tackles. He also had 1 tackle for loss, along with Dasheen Jackson and Janelle Brown. No sacks for the Hornets, and Scarborough had an interception. Sims had an interception, and Lewis had an interception. A&M was led in tackles by Jamarion Ellis with 14. And Cortez Andrews had 2 tackles for loss. They also had 11 total tackles. Sack went to Marvin Smith, and they had no turnovers. So again, this seems like kind of the way Bama State's been going a couple games this SWAC season. Fall behind big and make a spirited run at it, but they ultimately again came up 1 touchdown short, and so they dropped another game. And we'll look at the standings really quickly. Not a lot of change on either side. Jackson State leads the East at 4-0. They're 6-2 overall. They won 4 games in a row. Bama State is 3-1. They're 4-3 overall, and they won 2 in a row. FAMU is 2-1 in conference, 4-3 overall. They won 1. Our key reminder is FAMU did beat Bama State. So if they finish in a tie some kind of way with Bama State, whether it's in second place or whatever, they get the tiebreaker there. Jackson State beat FAMU, so they have the tiebreaker over them. So right now the Tigers are sitting in a really good spot. Alabama A&M is 1-2 in conference, 3-4 overall. They've lost 1. Bethune-Cookman 1-3, 1-7 overall. They've lost 1. Valley 0-4 in conference, 0-8 overall. They're on an 8-game losing streak. Southern still sits on top of the West by virtue of that win over Alcorn. Even though both teams are 3-1, Southern does have a tiebreaker. They're 3-1, 4-4 overall. They've lost 1. Alcorn 3-1, 4-4 overall. They've lost 1. Texas Southern 2-2, 3-4 overall. They've won 1. Pine Bluff 2-2, 3-5 overall. They've won 1. Grambling 1-3 in conference, 4-4 overall. They've lost 1. And Prairie View is 1-3, 3-5 overall. They've won 1. So it's still tight on each side. Some teams need a lot of help, some don't. And like I said, these upcoming weeks, we will start to kind of see some separation. Looking at the schedule for Saturday, November 2nd. So it's already the first weekend of November here. And we only have a few more weeks left of the season. So season is moving rapidly. Southern is at Alabama A&M. That's a 2 p.m. kickoff. Pine Bluff is at Jackson State. That's also a 2 p.m. kickoff. That's homecoming in Jackson. Grambling is at Bethune-Cookman, also a 2 p.m. kick. Prairie View is at Valley, 2 p.m. kick. Texas Southern at Florida A&M, that's a 3 p.m. kick. It's homecoming in Tallahassee for the Rattlers. And also Bama State and Alcorn play in Mobile. That's a 4 p.m. kick. So we're entering that portion of the season where pretty much every game is a afternoon game. There are no evening games. So we'll know by like 7 o'clock on Saturday, we'll pretty much know where everything stands. Like I said, there are some big games. Southern Alabama A&M is a big game. Alcorn and Bama State's a big game. Texas Southern, you know, their game against FAMU is big for them if they want to keep pace in the division. And really, other than that, Pine Bluff and Jackson, Pine Bluff needs this win as well. But, you know, both teams in the West who kind of come in with 2 losses, they have a tough game. So that'll be interesting to see how those teams do. And that'll do it for us. We'll be back on Wednesday with our Week 10 preview. SWAC Smoke live on Thursday, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. And then our Week 10 recap will be Sunday. So, like I say, man, y'all keep it locked, and we'll holler at y'all on the rebound. Peace.